Eh bien, bonjour à toutes et à tous. Hello everyone. Je suis Franck Payen et je reçois aujourd'hui Maria Montes.
Hello.
Pour ceux qui nous rejoignent et qui nous suivent habituellement, vous savez que les sessions sur la chaîne YouTube Adobe France ont lieu en français, mais exceptionnellement, puisque Maria nous fait l'honneur de venir en parallèle de son passage sur Type Paris, nous allons faire cette session en anglais. Donc ce seront les derniers mots que vous entendrez en français aujourd'hui. Je ferai peut-être une piqûre de rappel au milieu, mais pour la suite, tout le reste aura lieu en anglais. So everything's gonna happen in English, starting from now.
Excusez-moi, je n'ai pas bien parlé français.
Ah, you didn't tell me you could do that. So, but that's okay. It's gonna be okay for everyone. Look, we've got Thibaut here. We've got a chat for people who want to talk to us and have a conversation. That chat has a 30-second lag, so which means you write a question and we're gonna answer in 30 seconds. So hello Thibaut, hello again, and welcome Maria.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, that's a pleasure. Thank you for giving us your time while you're traveling a lot these days. Maria is a graphic designer,
Yes.
lettering artist,
Yes.
pattern maker
Yes.
in the textile industry. You've been raised in Catalonia,
Yes.
worked in Barcelona, moved
Yes.
to Australia,
Yes.
and last week was like Amsterdam, Berlin, now Paris.
Yes. And back to Berlin and then Porto and then my hometown, 1 hour north of Barcelona, and then back to Australia. That's the whole traveling for the rest of the year probably.
Good. Then yeah, I think you get your carbon
Yes.
carbon
Tax.
balance completely done. Yeah, you cannot do more than that.
No.
If you're here with us tonight, it's because you're it's because you're there for Type Paris.
Yes.
For those who haven't heard about that yet, Type Paris is a summer event organized by Jean-François Porchef, which, by the way, happened to be a lecturer and teacher for you.
Yes, I met Jean-François in 2012 in New York while studying at Type at Cooper, and we have been in touch in the distance since then. So I haven't seen him for many, many years now, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing him again. So yeah, he was my teacher in the past.
That's good, that's good. You see, he hasn't changed a lot. People don't change that way. For people trying to attend, it's a full program happening in English. It's all about building your own typeface. It takes 5 weeks. People are gonna be like crazy working on their subject, and during those 5 weeks, once in a week, this year it's every Thursday. It used to be Tuesday and Wednesdays the years before. They're gonna invite people, and those people, they can be either their instructors, but they're also gonna be speakers, two speakers every evening. And you can see all the speakers for 2019, and I'm having the honor to receive some of them for the live streams, and I'm receiving Maria right now, and she's going to speak tonight at Jean-François' conference.
Yes.
So what's going to be your talk tonight?
My talk is going to be about my love for letterforms and education, my values based on gender equality, cultural diversity and inclusion, and my personal interest in the use of language as cultural identity.
Nice. For someone with so much background in this on these matters, it's really important. If I go to your website too, so I copied her website address in the description. So you can go to mariamontes.net, where you're gonna find most of the references we're gonna talk about today.
Yes.
Coming from the very dark ages to now, and evolving work. It's a kind of whole process going there. So we can see, as I was telling you, there's been a background with calligraphy.
Yeah, a strong background in calligraphy. and then many years of pure graphic design, which you might not find many of these examples.
Like in wood?
No, like just like graphic design as
pure right. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
pure graphic design as in traditional traditional graphic design, which you might not find on the website, but that was actually a lot of years of my career, the first 10 or 11, just being a digital graphic designer full-time working for other people. So that's a strong background. And then there was a point where I was like, what's next? I have no idea. And there was a big gap in between, and from 2011 I decided to specialize in letterforms and illustration. But before that happened, there is a lot of years of logo design, business card design, stationery design, web interface design, before getting to where I am today. So yeah, there is a lot of years of just digital full-time graphic design.
I might ask to our audience, are you in the field? Did you already know Maria, or just did you happen to be here because you're following the French YouTube channel? Working on that, are you guys on the chat? Don't hesitate to answer about that. Are you already Illustrator, InDesign users, so we can know exactly where you're coming from? And then we are gonna keep on working on your website and also on your Instagram, because you've got quite a lot of things happening. Instagram is more about what's happening now than what's made to stay. And you happen to have a really, in French we call that actualité, which is now something's happening for you now. Is the big exhibition?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that exhibition?
Yes. So I have been in Australia for 12 years now, and my parents, as many of you maybe, don't really understand what I do. They are okay with what I do, but they don't really know or ask what I do. And so a couple of years ago, I was working on my font, and the curator of the art center La Panera in Spain saw my work and first inquired about the font. And I said, yes, I'm working on it and it will be released soon. But then that same person a few weeks later came back to me and said, actually, we would like to talk to you about hosting a solo exhibition in Catalonia. And it was a big deal for me because my parents have never seen my work. And the first thing I thought is like, oh God, my father is going to see my work and is not going to be very impressed about it or not liking it. Or I thought, yeah. So I went to the museum, we had a chat, and we scheduled the exhibition. The exhibition is a retrospective of my last 5 years of practice, so there is a lot of everything. That was last year, so it was a really beautiful museum, and displaying within 4 walls. I was displaying the 4 main disciplines I have been working on lately. Then 2 weeks after the opening, another center of modern art emailed me and told me they have seen the exhibition, they want the work, they want to tour my work, and this time is 3 times bigger. It's next to the Coliseum in Tarragona, an hour south from Barcelona in Catalonia, and it's going to be again a retrospective, and I can add pieces and so on. So a couple of weeks ago, I opened my second solo exhibition. My father, my parents, both of them, came last year, and it was a big surprise because up to now, my father didn't really know what to expect. When I said exhibition, he thought frame artworks or frame paintings. And then he came, and of course there is huge, large scale applications of my work and textiles and also the font. And so he saw the work for the first time, and it was really a good experience actually, because it's like, oh yeah, okay. That's what you do, right? Now he's seen it for the second time, bigger.
He's getting used to that.
He's getting used to it. Now he asked me, oh, okay, if you have to do this again, can you please do it next to our hometown? Because 2 hours by car is quite a lot for us to drive. And I said, okay, Dad, I will try my best to do it closer to your hometown. Considering I live in Australia, 2 hours by car, it was pretty close.
I
Yes.
can definitely see the feeling here. But, okay, that's nice. We went last year, but
And this year, so what happens next year? So the exhibition at the moment is open till the 25th of August. If by any chance you happen to go to Barcelona,
don't
and
hesitate.
you can get the train hours south, and it's 9 walls and about 80 plus pieces, and it's displaying textile work, illustration work on skateboards. It's displaying full color illustrated cocktail artworks, black and white lettering, my recent font release, and a couple of personal projects that are a cultural bridge between my hometown, like the country where I was born, and the country where I currently live. Yeah.
For people trying to follow that a little bit later, everything is on your Maria Montes, I am Maria Montes Instagram, and from there we can see what you put on the floor.
Yes.
Like you said, shit everywhere.
Yes.
Because you've had a particular period which might not be over, but
it is now.
It is over.
I think it is now. Who knows? But
who knows?
Who
it
knows?
might come back. Trying to put on paper, on graphic design, all of your any expression with shit inside.
Yeah. So what happened is, first of all, I moved to Australia and I didn't speak English. So as you can tell, my accent is still pretty strong. I think it will be always as strong like it is now. I was too old to change the accent. I moved with 3 Australian boys, and I couldn't understand more than half of what they were telling me. They were using a lot of colloquialisms and slang. And slowly my English got better, but still there was a lot of things that were escaping to my knowledge. So I found myself asking all the time to my friends, what does that mean? You know, like many expressions. And they were telling me, oh, you know, this means that. Oh, really? This is weird. But then I thought, well, actually, it's not that weird, because if I use my language, I'm going to use really weird expressions as well. I realized my friends were using many, many expressions with the word sheet. And then it made me reflect on how I personally use language in my native language, which is Catalan or Spanish. And I thought, actually, I use really weird expressions as well. It's just that I never happened to stop and reflect on that. Then I could not stop listening expressions with the word shit constantly. It was like everywhere for me. It's like when you buy a car and you see the same car every day on the streets.
Everybody's got exactly the same.
And then what happened is I thought, well, you know what? I want to learn more. I want to learn what these expressions mean. And I want to also turn that into a project where it's going to be a reflection of my time learning a new language and also becoming part of the culture. So I told all my friends I was going to work on this project, and I called that a sheet list. So I thought, I'm doing a sheet list, and you know, if you happen to think about any expressions, just text me and tell me what it means. And so all of a sudden, I got this very long list, and all my friends were, hey, do you have this one? And this means that. So I put a very long list of expressions, and I decided to use these expressions in a biographical way. So I wanted to explain how I feel, or the things are happening in my life or on the news related to these expressions, and then make it like very relevant for my day-to-day life. So this list grew up super quickly. And there are many occasions where things were happening to me. I could relate exactly to that expression. And it's been like a 2 years project. And it's been a very, very self-biographical way of explaining things that are happening to me constantly. So if you go to my website, you probably can find, well, the entire project is published.
The sheet series.
Yeah. And then the sheet series, in theory, finished last year, where I accomplished 100 posts. So some of the posts are simply explaining what the expression means, or some of the posts are actually explaining things or thoughts I'm having at that time. So if I'm really scared, if I'm really down, if I'm really sad, if something I find it really stupid. So it's a reflection of my day-to-day, and actually this project has taught me a lot of slang now. So
so you're the best. Are you better at slang, or are you better at type design and letter for which one is
I'm very good at learning, I think. I love learning, even if it's shit like that. I love learning. So this has been really great. It's also been like a very good bridge for me to access the culture, because one thing is knowing the language, but the language doesn't give you access to the culture completely. The way how you use the language and the way how you interact with your surroundings, I think, makes you understand much better. So this has made me reflect on my own culture in Catalonia, and we do have actually something called eschatological Catalan background. So eschatology just means an interest in everything related to poo, pee, and asses. And so this is a thing in my culture, and we use a lot of expressions, and are not rude, are just part of the day-to-day. So it's just a bridge between these two things, and a reflection on how we use language.
Good, that's great, because we kind of have the same thing around here in France, but people try to be more polite about that, and they're like, no, you're not supposed to say that.
But okay. I'm sure you say something like, when you want to say good luck, you say something like mer.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah. That's what happens for exams or...
Yeah.
Completely.
It's sort of the same thing, yeah.
And I think it's all around the world.
Yes, it is.
People use that. So that means, I'm going from the top to the bottom, so I'm already in 80 shitty expressions. When you started that, did you know that it would take you so much time? Did you know that it would mean 100 posts?
Never. Actually, I started because I was having a really strong downtime. So I didn't know, maybe you all know, but I didn't know at that time what it means post-exhibition blues. Do you know the meaning of that?
I can understand.
Because I didn't know this is a thing. So I had my first solo exhibition, and after that I felt I had nothing left in my body. And it was really hard for me to go back to the office. It was hard to be inspired. It was hard to find energy. And it took me 2 months of like asking myself, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Until a friend of mine that is an artist said to me, yeah, this is called post-exhibition blues, and this is pretty normal. And I'm like, wow, okay, I wish I knew about that before. Then I went to see a friend, and this person, actually, it wasn't a friend, it's my boyfriend's father, and we were chatting, and suddenly he said, shit will hit the fan. And I said to him, what does that mean? And he said, shit is going everywhere. And I felt that was me.
Yeah.
I felt like this is how I feel right now. Shit is going everywhere for me, and I don't know, I don't see the end. And so I started just that because I thought, that's exactly how I'm feeling right now. And then I did a second one, and then a third one, and then a friend of mine texted me and told me for the first time, I love your shit series. Literally like that. And I said, what? My shit series? And then I thought for about a day or two, and I thought, yeah, of course, this is a shit series. And then there you go, 2 years of work and exploration, like really just exploration, and a very good excuse to keep
to go to the
practicing.
Bottom of
it. Yeah.
we can make that one fun. So if anyone doesn't know every English expression with shit, you can get that. I saw some of those were translated to Spanish too. I didn't go that far before today, so don't hesitate to take a look at it. It's so that's what got you from that
very bad moment.
Post whatever. Depression to being great again and keep on doing new things.
Yes, it was really, it was never intended to be anything like a series, but there was a lot of people that connected to the project, and I think the thing that I loved the most was the collaboration. So friends of mine and friends of friends and people that I didn't know that was following the project, and the participation on the project was actually really good. And for me also to know stuff that I would have never probably. I mean, I would have never understood many expressions that I would be like, oh, I think I know what it means, but I'm not too sure, so I'm not gonna ask.
So you can have more information now, and it's a good reason to go to people like maybe you don't know all of them, and you can ask a crazy question like that, because you wouldn't do that in the street.
No.
Hello, what do you know about shit?
No, I wouldn't. No, but then. When I reflect on my culture and the stuff that we do related to poo, which is not really rude, I think it's just part of how the culture is, and maybe because there is a strong foundation on the farm and farmers, and this idea that the thing you take to the land, you give it back. And it's a very strong feeling of ecology in a way, because it's a cycle. And we don't take it literally as something that is like bad, but it's something that you take from the land and you enjoy it and you bring it back to the land. And so this is very much part of, I think, Catalan culture. And so we use this theme without being really rude or just very natural. I think something like very natural for us. So this is translated into my Australian culture in another way.
Good. No, that's really fun. That's really fun. So, so that exhibition is not only about that, but we can see also, because I was showcasing everything you put behind on the Instagram. Yeah. A lot of preparation. Well, now it's going to be more posts. So we've got the sheet series, but we also had the pattern design.
Yes.
And at what moment is the pattern design coming? I'm sure it's arriving.
Yeah. So.
Not that room.
No, it's the first room.
It's the first room, so I have to go back.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So in 2011, I started to specialize in letterforms, but I went back to Australia, and it was the beginning of my freelance solo career. So it was sort of like starting from scratch. I was planning on specializing on letterforms, but then a very good friend of mine from Barcelona, Laura Piera, she knows me very well, and she emailed me and said, hey, I'm starting a textile design project and I want you to come on board. And I said to her, yes, but I don't know anything about textiles. And she said, yes, but I believe you can do this and I want you with me. So we started together, and 1 or 2 months later we sold one of our designs to Zara. We printed many copies. I'm not too sure now if it's 8 or 10,000 copies of the scarf. And all of a sudden it became a reality where I'm like, oh, wow, so this is happening, and someone bought our design. So she invited me to come on board.
Will it be the first one?
This is one of the first ones that we did. It's not exactly that one, but this is an example, for example. And so what happened is, she invited me to come on board. I didn't know anything about textiles. I hadn't done any illustration work for a very long time, but it was real clients with real briefings. And I think at that point I had really strong burnt out from graphic design, and the only thing I didn't want to do is going back to doing business cards and stationery design, basically. So I thought anything that I can do different, I'm very interested. So I started, I use a lot of Google and YouTube from my bedroom by myself in Melbourne, and I had deadlines. There were real clients. We started, at the beginning was harder, but then I really enjoyed it, the idea of like spending my days drawing. It was really rewarding. It was like a new passion. Suddenly I could do something completely different. So this project lasted 2 years, and we designed 432 prints.
What? 400? Wow.
And 32, yes. It was really fast-paced because I was based in Melbourne. My business partner, Laura, was based in Barcelona. And the factory producing our textiles were based in Inner Mongolia. So the Three Corners company was operating 24 hours. So Laura will meet the client, will get the briefing, she will go to sleep, I'll get up, get the briefing, work the entire 9 hours. Then by the time she's up, I'm delivering the first sketches. She goes back to the client, agrees, and then this design is sent by me to Inner Mongolia, and the factory is producing. It was super fast-paced. Client loved it because it was fast fashion, and I thought that it was really rewarding seeing that stuff was going into the real market, as in, for the first time I didn't only see my illustration work, but I saw illustration on textiles. And it was great. It was a really good feeling to touch textiles, to understand how they behave, to see like volume as well. So this project helped me a lot to get all this insight into illustration that I would have never gone probably if that. Then the collaboration ended, so the company in Mongolia decided to end the collaboration with me after 2 years, and that's the point where I'm a solo freelancer for the very first time. And then is when I'm starting to play and the cocktails appear. So the cocktails in the exhibition is my first time working on personal work. So it's only since 2014, and it's because I have been doing textiles non-stop for 2 years, zero graphic design work, only textile work. And then at that point, I'm like, well, now I don't know. Now, do I go back to graphic design? I don't know. Do I keep going on textiles? I don't know. Do I want to go to letters, which is what I study and specialized in? So the first cocktail artwork that I did, it's called Bloody Maria, and it's a funny joke because it says, a Bloody Maria a day keeps the doctor away. And this is just a joke because I'm looking for directions, and my partner was very supportive at that time and told me, take 6 months off and I'll support you and just think about what you want to do. And for the first time, I've decided, well, I have 6 months. I don't know what to do, so I'm going to explore. So I'm just playing, really. And so this artwork is the mix of everything was happening. So illustration, surface patterns, and my love for lettering. So it's like a mix of these three things that I was very, very interested. Then after I did this piece, I don't know in France, but in Spain, no one really drinks Bloody Marys. And so my friends told me, well, Maria, no one drinks Bloody Marys here. Why don't you do a piece that actually people can relate to? You should do a gin and tonic, because Barcelona, it's all about gin and tonics. So I never thought about doing a second piece. I just did a one-off. But then, yeah, I thought, okay, yeah, it makes sense. Why not? So a few months later, I found the time, and I researched a sentence that was catchy and that was sort of like a love story, because it was my love story with Barcelona, living overseas as well. And so I decided to do the piece. And as soon as I finished the piece, I sold a few pieces, and a cocktail venue in Australia emailed me and said, we've seen your cocktail series.
And you're like, it's not a series, it's only 2 works.
I said, oh.
Okay.
And they said, well, we have a cocktail bar and we would like you to have a solo exhibition on cocktails. You choose. Get
drunk every evening.
Not that great, but lots of research. And of course, they told me, yes, you can come and try a few of them. Okay, great. So
so you mean
this is how this series happens, because they offer me the venue, they gave me the menu, and they told me, it's up to you if you want to choose our cocktails or choose your own cocktails, but we would love you to focus on cocktails and do the pieces that you want. You decide, but the space is for you. And so from there, I stopped everything and I thought, okay, now it's going to be cocktails. And I took 6 months into developing this project. And I think also the thing I enjoyed the most was the research as well. So I didn't know a lot about cocktails, and I did the research. Obviously, every cocktail has many, many ingredients. So it was all about picking the ingredients, drawing a lot, then making like a recipe with all the ingredients to build a collage. So if you go through my website, you will see that actually every single ingredient in every artwork is drawn individually. So the line work is by hand, but then all the color is done in Photoshop, And then after every individual element is being colored in Photoshop, then I go to Illustrator and I put them together in a digital collage. And then once I have all the elements separately is when I'm starting to come up with the final thing. So let's see that I spend a lot of hours not knowing what's going to happen till I don't have all the pieces ready. Then is when I put them together. But it doesn't come till the end. So I'm not too sure what's happening till everything is sort of combined at the same time.
So that one might please French audience, where you get an absent one.
Yes, I did.
Sugar and mountain herbs.
And someone told me that, oh, maybe I shouldn't have lightened the absinthe because it's not a good thing for the absinthe. And I was like, oh, sorry, I didn't know so much about this. But I definitely had absinthe where there is a drop of absinthe going through the sugar and going through the cup. And I had it and it was really good. Maybe not the flames, but the other part, yes.
Just next to the tank is a place where they named La Fée Verte, which is the
Green Fairy.
Green Fairy, which is the previous name of the absinthe.
Excellent, because it's the font name, Green Fairy, so it's all related.
Yeah, everything is related, don't worry.
Excellent.
We're gonna go there before the tank.
Great. Not too sure how is that gonna go before
the talk or after the talk?
Maybe after.
Would be fine. Yeah. So all those series, it always starts with one design, one idea, and then people push you into doing.
Yes. So it's sort of like I don't have the ideas by myself. I think the ideas come to me, and then I put it together, and I think, yeah, great. But a lot of the times, like the exhibition. I didn't come up with the idea of having a retrospective, but it came to me, and I'm very, very grateful for that, because a lot of opportunities have come maybe through putting a lot of energy out there and work, but a lot of the ideas come from people around me telling me, hey, you should be doing that, and I'm like thinking for 48 hours, and then I really should be doing that.
And that's very funny, because I had a friend whose parents were artists, and he told me like he had a small exhibition in a small venue, and he was doing like he had this part of sketching animals, he had this part about sharks painting, and I told him like, yeah, you're always doing series, and how do you get to that part? And he's like, yeah, my parents, when I was a kid, and if I start something, they're gonna say like, you start doing it, so do it from A to Z on a series, do something, and that's gonna make a body of work, and that body of work, you can work with that. And when he told me that, I was like, oh yeah, I'm the kind of guy who never pushes thing. I might do one thing.
One-off.
I'm doing one-off. You're doing one-off. You're pushed to make a series, and he started doing anything he starts has to become a series. Okay. That's something.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I'll follow you now.
It's a training for life and for to make art consistent. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really good.
So we are in the cocktail, which relates a lot with all you did in the textile industry before.
Yes.
What happens next to the cocktail? What happens afterwards? Absent?
Yeah, after the cocktails is when I have this moment of going down, and then the sheet series appeared, and so this like keeps me on float and motivated for a few, like nearly 2 years. And then what happens is, while doing the sheet series, I go back to the cocktails and I keep looking at one of the cocktails. So there is one artwork that everyone keeps giving me a lot of feedback. It's lettering using the absinthe, like the absinthe design. I have a lot of feedback from this artwork. Actually, what happens is that I get asked to convert my artworks into 2-color letterpress. So I think you can find it somewhere on the website.
We can be in very big here right now. That's us, and that's the first print. I'm gonna try not to put it on the light, and it's green, so it's transparent.
transparent.
It's completely transparent.
Maybe
right now.
this one.
Yeah, this one should be okay. And anyway, I can find that on
the
website.
Yeah.
So work and
This
the
one,
letterpress.
maybe there, here.
Okay.
So what happens is the full color cocktail artworks are really busy. There's a lot of information and it's full color. And so there is a letterpress printer, friend of mine, that offered me the option of collaborating. And then I decided that it would be a good idea to transform the full color cocktail artworks into 2 or 3 color letterpress. That is forcing me to strip down a lot of detail.
Yeah, because when we are looking at all the cocktails, there's a lot of different ink work,
it's all, a lot of gradient work. And so then to transform this into a 2 color letterpress print needs to be like, okay, the work is done, is vector work, all of it, all the lettering is vector work, vector, so it's good because it's already there, but it's like reimagining this artwork, super simple. The interesting thing about that is that I realized once I simplify the artworks, I prefer that
simple version
than the other one, which is very painful because you already put about 3 weeks full time per cocktail. And then once I delete a lot of it and I go back to simple forms and I convert everything into vector and I simplify, then I think actually this is better than the 3 week full time full color artwork. But hey, it's always good to go back and forth. I think this is part of design. So I go back to the absinthe and I go back to this lettering. And then is when I realize I have to do something with that. And at the beginning, I thought, I don't know, maybe I can try to do A to Z, but it's going to take me a long time. And I don't know if I'm going to find the time. But probably most of you know the project 36 Days of Type on Instagram. And so I started to think maybe this is a good excuse to push myself and have a real deadline. So initially I open Illustrator and I use the lettering absinthe, and following this design, I'm trying to add every other character in the uppercase. So I have 36 Days of Type in mind. I thought it's somewhere in April or May. So I started working on that, having this as a deadline. So I started with only the outline, and then I go through different shapes, and it took me a while. I don't remember how long, but it took me a while to just be thinking and considering the shapes. I remember in my studio there is no other type designers or lettering artists, so when I was working on these letters for the first time, a lot of people thought it's already a font, and I thought no, this is like 2 lives away from being a font. It's only vector work in Illustrator. But thanks to this project, I published A to Z, and it was great. So, and I left it there, and I thought, oh, it would be great, maybe one day extend it. Then a year later, I received an email asking me to be part of a calendar and use my font to feature one of these days, of one day of the year. The calendar is on my blog, and you will find it in there. So what happened is I only had from A to Z in Illustrator. I didn't have any numbers, I didn't have punctuation marks and anything like that.
You mean not a font, not the design system that is
No, not a font. It was an A to Z type drawings. And then, yeah, of course, I was really honored to be asked to be in the typodarium, which was like a golden version because it was like, I don't know, 10th or anniversary or something. It was like a special edition. And so I said yes very quickly. And then they gave me the day. And the day was, I think, is the 5th of December. So I had the letters, but I didn't have the number. So I had to design the number, especially for the calendar. but they thought it's a font, but actually there was no numbers yet. And so I designed the number especially for that page, and
So
it took me a long time.
Yeah, when they called you, you are at that stage, and they told you we need one number.
Yes.
And that was number 5.
Yes.
Which happens to be the most basic one here in that series. There's a reason.
I don't know if there is a reason in here, but the reason is that they asked me, and I had to design number 5 on the spot. Also, I had to consider that this was going to be a system, so depending on the design of the number 5 is going to be affecting the other numbers. It took me much longer than just typing and designing the layout because I was drawing the number. Now, I was late for the submission a few days, but I did the number 5, and I was very excited about that because I thought actually everyone is going to see this is a font, which isn't, but I want to be there, and then I will make it a font. I submitted a few days later, and the person in touch told me that they thought I am not interested and I didn't send the work, so they gave this date to someone else, but they wanted me to be part of it, so they were gonna give me another day. So I don't know, but I'm pretty sure they changed that date, and they told me 12th of April, which means two more numbers.
2 more numbers, you didn't have them.
No.
Yeah, no.
And I said to them, absolutely not. I cannot do another date because I don't have time, because I have many deadlines and I cannot allocate time for this. So please accept my work because can only be the 5th of December. So I was very lucky, and they were cool with that and they accepted it. And so this was at the beginning of the year. I think was 2017. And so I knew the calendar was going to go live and was going to be commercially available by the end of 2017. So I had a real deadline then to turn this typeface into a complete font set, like a real font, like I promised on the book that said it was a font. So that was the second real deadline to convert this design into a real font. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're getting pushed and pushed and pushed again. But you managed to fight back because you might have done the 12th of April. Anyway, now you can do it. It's easy. You
now it's fine.
Yeah.
Now it's 1 second. Yeah.
I can get it. And then all those posters that I'm seeing here, what are those? So
when they asked me to exhibit my work in Spain, I thought it was a good opportunity to use my font and display the font in use, and I wanted to display the font in a way that it made sense. So the way how it made sense for me was like, after doing my sheet series and talking about this stuff, I decided to take the font and put it in place in Catalan. So in my mother tongue, we have a million expressions using the word sheet as well. That means many things, good and bad things. So this is called eschatology. It's just something related to the interest in this type of topics. And for us, it's normal. So I display the font in 21 examples where for us, our colloquialisms, saying, for example, I love you shitloads, is literally the same meaning in Catalan. T'estimo que t'hi cagues is exactly the same meaning as I love you shitloads. So all these expressions are Catalan expressions with the same theme, and the font is displayed in there. So it's just an excuse to see the font in a different context. As well, you will find examples where the font is applied to packaging. So to display the font in a commercial environment.
So this must be on your work.
Yeah, I think here and in there you will find prototypes that I built to give a context to the font. So this case, for example, are liquors, and there are different liquors. Some of them are traditionally from Spain, some of them are very well known, like sangria. And so it's a way to display the font into a commercial outcome so that you can see a product finish and how the font will be applied.
At that moment, when you start doing the labels,
yes,
did you have the background patterns done and you just applied it, or
Yes.
you put it? No.
There is one, the last one, the sangria one, is done for this packaging, but the other ones belong to, some of them are my cocktail artworks, are ingredients from there.
Yeah.
Some of them are from textile designs that I developed in the past.
You developed it
Yes.
before. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, just to realize.
Yes, that I'm human and I sleep.
Because I completely understand the case when you're like, oh yeah, I need that too, and that part too, and it becomes a huge
Task.
project, huge task, and you can get more and more of small things.
I know. Yes. Yes, so I had a lot of work from my 2 years of textiles, and work that maybe never made it into client work, or work that it was just personal work. So it was a good way to combine these two things together, the font and the patterns in a packaging environment. Yeah.
And what's happening here? It's moving. Why is it moving?
Yeah, this is an experiment. So I met a couple of girls that are amazing in my first conference in Australia. They are Roxy and Phoebe, and they have a podcast called Drunk on Lettering, and they interview lettering artists in a very, very informal and relaxed way. So I met them because we spoke at the same conference, all together with Nick Misagi. And so, yeah, they asked me if I would like to be part of the podcast, and I said yes, great. And they asked me, can you please do an artwork just to present your podcast? And at that time, I thought I just want to try something new. I just want to see if I can apply some animation into the font. So I have a few friends in my co-working space that use After Effects and Premiere, and I thought, oh, I'm just gonna play. And I wanted to make a joke because a lot of my work has humor. I think it's the way I always add some personal input into the work, and I like when people have this small smile at looking at something. There is a moment where you connect to the work, and the work talk to you, and you sort of have this click. And so instead of writing drunk on lettering, I wrote drunk on letter ink. And I made it a bottle, as you drank so much ink that you went crazy on lettering. So I use After Effects, and my colleagues at my co-working helped me, and that was a one-off piece that I thought was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and pretty well done. That's very funny because we realized that I realized that from the beginning you've and that's the reason it was complicated to qualify you. You're not just a letter artist. You came from graphic design. You had calligraphy. You had pattern, textile. Then you had some motion. You're doing like everything. It's all about art in the end.
Yes, I think maybe it's not a smart way. Maybe people would say it's better to specialize, and I think yes, it is. I find myself pretty specialized anyway, because everything relates to illustration, lettering, and letterforms in general. So it is a niche in itself, but yes, within the niche there is a lot of applications, and sometimes people know me only because of my textile work, or people only know me because I do teach calligraphy, and they might only know me because of my calligraphy skills, and other people know me through that. So I'm still figuring out if it's better to keep going crazy and doing everything, or if I should stop and just do 1-2 things.
Yeah. It's but I suppose if you're doing those things, you kind of like that.
Yeah, because I get bored really easily. Yeah.
I know the feeling.
And so I need to be jumping. Yeah. Yes.
That's what's driving you.
Yes. That I don't feel stuck. Probably it's like, oh, I'm gonna do that now because I'm really bored of this, and then I go back later to that. Yeah.
So that explains a lot about the way the exhibition was mounted.
Yes.
On one of the walls, we can see this poster artwork, which is all of your cocktails.
Yeah.
But this
some
time
of them.
in black and white.
Yeah.
The black and white came after the letterpress version.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah.
Going into reduction. Like, well, if it works in 2 colors, it's gonna work in 1. And then, you know what I'm gonna say, yeah? The black and white is my favorite.
It of course happens like that. Which means, by the way, because I don't think I can see right now, it looks a little bit cut out.
It's vinyl work.
Vinyl work. Don't tell me every white thing is vinyl and there's no black. Is it a black vinyl plus white print?
Yes, it is.
Okay, but it's not white vinyl cut.
No, it's not, because the supplier told me,
I'm gonna die.
sorry, but not.
Okay.
Because they didn't want to do, they didn't want to cut the vinyl.
Preparing it must be
Yes, especially when they saw the absence, because they said, sorry, it's not gonna happen. And I'm like, all right, I understand.
I can completely get that.
Yeah. I also work with the budget of the Center of Modern Art,
of course.
so it had to be within their budget, and I guess if they had to cut the vinyl, maybe it was like multiplied by 30 hours more of labor work, and I'm like, okay, fine.
Okay, we're not doing it. Okay. I can understand you guys don't want that.
Yes.
So I'm gonna put more shit on the walls.
Yes.
Less alcohol, but more shit.
Yeah, so what you are showing now is like a virtual tour of the show. So it was a bit difficult for me to take photos with my phone that actually reflected how big was the space. So I just took a recording with the phone to show a bit of what's happening there in all these spaces. Yeah. And so this is some work on, like, this textile work is actually the work I did on as a solo freelancer. So most of this work is Australian clients and very small labels. So nothing like big clients, and nothing like 20 or 10,000 copies, but the opposite, more like a author collaboration with a small designers. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, when you're talking about your work, I hear a lot of things with collaboration abroad, but you've been in Australia for what, 12 years something?
Yes, 12.
You're getting clients in Australia too?
Yes. Yes. So normally my work has 2 sides, like the educational part, which I think is very good for me as well, because it makes me be very social, because otherwise I'm in my head talking to myself all the time. I like this part of being introvert because I need it, but then I find that when I share my knowledge and passion with other people, it makes me be very, very social. So it's counteracting both sides of my personality. So being able to teach gives me some sort of security and income, that I'm buying time with that income. So the time that I'm buying is to experiment and then use this time into personal projects. So every now and then might come like an identity work, which I do quite a few. Then it come back packaging work, so a wine label, beer label. It might come illustration work, and it might come some textile design work as well. And so in between these, which is not so regular, is all my time to play. And normally what have happened until now is that the more I play, the more
work you get
from
that.
The more work comes back to me. Maybe doesn't mean commercial work sometimes, but can be exhibition work, which is also really amazing, because I never dreamed about having an entire space like I am having at the moment with 80 pieces exhibited. So this goes beyond what I never imagined. So my playtime is bringing me a very big reward into my practice. Yeah.
What's in the bottles?
The wine is real.
Wine is real.
Cheap but real, like very cheap but real. The olive oil is real. The sparkling water, I think, is real, and the liquors are empty.
I knew something like that would happen.
Yes.
But I didn't ask the question beforehand. It just happened here. The reason why I came to on this video before just showing the exhibition place was because of the skateboards on the walls. I saw in your work quite a couple of skateboards. Are they displayed? Yeah, here. 9 skateboards,
Yeah.
and I know there are
There is a
some down
6.
there. 6 is here. I suppose
Yes.
there's 3.
No.
No.
No. There is a 6, a 9, a 10, and an 11. And probably this, as you are gonna say, it's gonna probably end up in a big series. Yeah.
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 How do you 6 days on the wall? You get already 46.
Decks on my house. So what happens is, I used to be a roller skater when I was a kid. I did it for 7 years, like competitive rolling skating. And then I met my partner, and he used to be a skater. So he had an injury a few years ago and stopped skating, but then became a collector. So what happens is we have about 46 decks hanging off the wall in my house. One of my housemates a while ago told me that this is the most expensive wallpaper you can ever get, because there is a lot of money into that wall. And so at that time, in our 6th anniversary, it was that time when I lost my job and where I didn't know what to do and where I was doing cocktails. And it was like exploration time. And I thought it would be really good to give my partner a present for our 6th anniversary. And then I started to think about what. And all of a sudden I thought, well, I am going to play with skateboards. It took me a long time because I have never worked on wood, and I use a fine liner. Okay. And I did both of them. So both skateboards have the same message. One is in Catalan, which is my first language, and the other is in English. And it says for our first 6 years together. And one is positive and the other is negative. And I sort of combine elements that he loves with elements that I'm interested. And after that, nothing happened. Obviously, he loved it, but that's it. It was like, oh, great. Thank you. That was pretty cool. That's it. Then 3 years later, I was a bit stuck. And I felt like, I think I was designing the font, and the font was really hardcore for me because it was like digital work 10 hours a day, every day. And I'm used to, as we talked, jumping. And I was not jumping. I was only doing font production. Okay. And I felt I'm going really crazy. And I thought I need something to stop and change vibe. So I went back, bought 2 more decks. And I decided, okay, I'm going to do again for our anniversary. This time was 9 years. So the message says for the next 9 years together. Now, it's not very visible, the message, as in number 9 is not so clear. On the other board says anys, which is years. It's the same message again in Catalan and English. This time, what happens is I'm mixing the native flora from Australia and from Spain. So I grew up in the Mediterranean, and for me, my native flora are pine trees. And in Australia are eucalyptus trees and palm trees. So I combine the flora of both of our backgrounds together. And it really worked because I cut font production for 2 weeks and I only did these decks, and it was like fresh air completely. Now, when they offered me to host a solo exhibition last year, I thought it would be great if I extend the collection. And with the excuse of having the exhibition, I'm going to show 2 more new decks. So last year was our 10th anniversary. And I think, you'll find it up, you think? Up, yeah, because I'll be more up here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not so obvious, this one. And then for our 10th anniversary, I decided to use the font that was just recently released. And then I'm representing with the illustration the idea that in a long relationship, there are plenty of beautiful memories, but others that when recalling them, they still hurt. And this graphically is expressed by the beauty of flowers and spiky cactus. So this was the idea of our 10th anniversary skateboards. And because this year I was very privileged again, and I could showcase my work again, I decided let's extend it. So this...
You're getting pushed once more and you're doing...
Yes, actually, you know what? Today, the 4th of July, is my partner and I anniversary. Today is our anniversary.
And he's still in Australia right now?
He is in Berlin at the moment.
That's
it's sort of closer, yeah. And so, of course, the decks say 11 and Onza. And this time, what I'm representing in here is that there is a popular sentence that says, the secret to a happy marriage is a very good sense of humor and a short memory. And I don't know if in French you use the expression, but in English we say you have goldfish memory, and is represented by goldfishes. And again, I'm using just a marker, a fine liner, a Molotow marker, and I work on the wood. And this is the story behind the decks, and today is the official sort of thing, actually. So, yes, and this is now...
This is now part of the series. Today is on the walls of...
Yeah, so this is now display, and so far are 8, and probably are gonna be more, I would say, because it's really rewarding actually working on this type of thing, because it's a different surface and a different material.
Somewhere on the sheet show?
I think at the beginning, probably.
Trying to grasp it. Maybe I went too fast. Oh, we got people in front of it.
Yeah, this was, the day I opened the exhibition, they asked me to give a tour guide of the entire exhibition, and then I could explain what it means, what every pair of deck means, and it was great.
Is 7 and 8 coming at one moment, or are you just waiting for 12?
Yeah, it's gonna be 12. I'm not going back.
Because you said like a 12 of April was a wrong number.
Yeah,
You're doing
it's gonna be a 12.
That's
yes.
Good. That's very fun.
Yes.
Okay. If we go down there, where are we now? Did we make a full round of all your different careers in one?
Yeah, I want to maybe just talk very briefly about the calligraphy work and my calligraphy in France, actually. Because
do I go to the workshops? Or is it
maybe on the blog there is a couple of posts that are talking about France, because this is something I have done, I think, 4 or 5 years recently. And if we go down like that, this is the first one, yes. And yeah, there have been.
I get this one, that one,
and yeah, there are 3 or 4. So when I studied graphic design is a million years ago now, so it's 1996. In my first year as a Bachelor of Graphic Design, we studied calligraphy. It was compulsory for everyone. At that time, it was the beginning of like the Apple Macintosh, so people were a bit like, why are we doing this? Doesn't make any sense. We should be learning software. But calligraphy was part of the program, and it took an entire 9 months, and we went through many styles. I loved it very much, but at that time I could never see a real application for that. I went into 10 years of graphic design, digital graphic design career, and then I hit that wall where I didn't know what else to do. And when I went back to study, and I went back to letterforms again, in part of my postgrad in letterforms was again calligraphy. So I found my first teacher, Keith Adams, and I remember that he asked me, what is been happening, how are things? And I said to him, nothing is been happening, nothing interesting, my work is not interesting, nothing, I'm not really proud of the stuff I'm doing. And he said, I don't know why you didn't do calligraphy. I thought you had some talent. And I thought, I don't know, I just forgot about it. Really, I studied, I forgot about it. I grabbed my calligraphy pen again in 2011, and I had this click moment. And I thought, why did I stop? if I love it so much. And so I don't know, something clicked in my head, and I went back to it, and I decided I'm not gonna leave it again. So calligraphy for me works like a yoga exercise, sort of like. I wake up every morning and I try to find time to do practice. Originally it was only self-practice. I did the postgrad, I studied with Keith, I really enjoyed it, and then I decided that every year if I come back, I would like to keep studying. So my teachers, Keith and Amanda Adams, both teach in France in a very small town called Saint-Antoine-l'Abeille. I think...
Saint-Antoine-l'Abeille.
Yes. Merci beaucoup.
But you've learned a lot about French. Jeez.
I love it. Yeah, I love that.
Welcome.
And so this place is an abbey, more than 1,000 years old, and they run courses during the summertime, and it's hosted by a community of people living there and cooking there, and it's all included. And so you go there and have 6 or 7 days of only writing. So you wake up, you write, have a break, lunch is provided, have lunch, go back, keep writing, have dinner, and if you're very obsessed, maybe some of you are like me, have dinner, go back and keep writing. There are some days where we also have theoretical sessions at night, talking about the history of the style we are doing. So I started a few years ago and I fall in love with it, and since then I have been back maybe 3 or 4 times, studying every time a different style. So it is something that doesn't maybe come through my commercial work so much, but is the foundation to a lot of my commercial work, because having a very good foundation on calligraphy gives me a lot of knowledge to what to do with letterforms. So it's part passion, is part a very important foundation of my other work. And you are seeing here my other teacher, Amanda Adams, going through Celtic calligraphy and the notes and stuff. So it's in France, and I very much recommend it if you ever want to try something totally different. This is gonna be your thing.
I guess so, yeah. So first year was Fracture, then Italic, and then Celtic.
Yes,
and then there's one on top here, Roman capitals.
Roman capitals on fabric, which is amazing as well because you touch another surface. And then last year was copperplate.
Oh, this one.
This one here, yes.
Yeah, and this one. Italic here. So this was Roman.
Yeah, that's Roman capitals on fabric. And
I suppose it's very different to work on fabric because
very different, yeah, and very rewarding as well because you see your work moving in a different environment, and in a way fabric can be easier somehow because the brush is more resistant against the surface of the paper than if you use very smooth paper, and it's very I don't know, there is a connection with the brush that is totally different to the connection with a metallic nib. I find it extremely relaxing. I think it's one of the reasons why I do calligraphy, because it helps me to relax a lot, and it makes me breathe deeper and slower as well. So if I find myself I'm very anxious sometimes, I sit, I grab a pen, and I spend 30 minutes just looking at letterforms, and it sort of like reconnects my own self. So if you're into things like that, definitely for me calligraphy is a type of meditation. And these are things that I did last year in France as well, all with pointed pen. And the messages are something that I'm interested in lately, into like looking for messages that have ecology and things that matter to me. So trying to reflect on big issues that are very important to talk about. So these are my workshops.
Last ones,
Yes.
Good. That's very good. So next year, 2020, what kind of calligraphy are you already there? So you've got skateboard decks, 12.
Yeah, probably yes, I'm gonna
you
say.
get calligraphy, we don't know which style,
No.
which is not ancien, which is not Celtic, which is not Roman.
And I don't know what's gonna happen, so every year is harder and harder to make the calendar meet this course, because I come from Australia and sometimes it's possible and sometimes, like this year, is not. So I'm not too sure yet if it's gonna be possible or not, but my own practice is going to happen for sure. And then what else, I'm not too sure yet, so I'm a bit like still finishing all these crazy weeks of traveling, going back and taking a breath. I also started to teach at university this year, so I don't know if I'm going back to teaching or not. I haven't decided yet there, so it's open. See what happens. Yes.
Which is why you get a title, The Best Is Yet to Come.
Yes, that's what it's for me, pushing me, because I tend to be very negative. I tend to be like also very strict about my work.
Oh, really?
So as a teacher, I'm very optimistic and very encouraging, but as a student of my own, I'm always being very hard on my own self and thinking like it's not good enough. Maybe it's not ready yet. I need more time. And then a friend of mine once used this sentence, and I thought I just need to have this sentence very close to me, because that's what I want. I want to feel that the best is yet to come. So I'm not there yet, but something good is really coming. So that's what I'm trying to embrace all the time. It's like a fight with myself between my you're not good enough and into it's gonna come and it's gonna be amazing, so don't stop doing it.
Thank you. That's a very, very nice ending sentence. Is it okay?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Maria. Really great work. We've had a few chats, people saying hello at the beginning, and Alexandre sending on the links afterwards. So everything's fine. Thank you for sharing all that.
Thank you.
Thank you for never stop learning. Thank you for all the nice sentences. So we can learn anything about shit right now on the website. And did you make the version with the letterpress of the cocktails? Is there the recipe inside or not?
No, but that's a very good idea too. Maybe there is a book. Oh.
Is there one?
No, but no, you just told me now.
It depends. If it's a book with only the recipes you already did, it's good. Because if you're calling to a book, they're gonna ask you for 12 more.
I know. New cocktails.
But they've got to send the bottles first.
Yes, please. That will help.
We saw you emptied the
liquors.
First liquors. Thank you very much. It was really interesting. Thank you, agent. Agent say the same thing. Very instructive. And see you soon. I'm meeting the French people on Tuesday. Donc pour les Français qui seraient arrivés ici par hasard en se disant pourquoi ça parle anglais, on se retrouve mardi matin à 10h pour l'avant-dernière session de la journée, et surtout à midi où je recevrai Jimmy Pichard pour parler vidéo et terminer ce tour d'horizon de première qu'on avait fait il y a 1 an et demi maintenant. Donc ce sera l'occasion d'avoir encore un grand invité et une grande session. Merci à tous et à très bientôt. Thank you, Maria.
Merci beaucoup.
Bye bye.
Bye.